Hi, welcome to the Parenting Literacy Show. The purpose of this show is to help parents prepare their children by giving them information they can use to raise children who are physically healthy, who are intelligent, happy, spiritual, and have good social skills. My name is Dr. Joseph Lau. For the past 40 years, I've been studying how people grow and develop. I'm a developmental psychologist who's especially interested in parenting. And so for the last 15 years, I've been studying parenting, trying to understand the best that we can do. And so today I'd like to speak with you about a topic that has gotten too little attention, but I think you'll all agree is very important. And that is the careers that our children choose and how, as caregivers, we can help them with their career choice. Most people would probably agree that the career that we select for our lives, and the career our children select for their lives, is perhaps the most important decision they're going to make in their whole life. Because it just is going to have an influence on so many different things. For example, the kinds of people they come into contact with, their financial resources, the kinds of diet they're going to have, their lifestyle. There's so much that depends on this. And so parents have a vested interest in doing what we can to help children develop in this area, to basically do the best we can to help them prepare. So in order to help us understand this, we have today the good fortune of having as our guest Mrs. Fatiha Mcluffy. Fatiha Mcluffy is an educational consultant who has an extensive background in this area. She has a master's degree from Columbia University. She has more than 10 years of experience as a pre-college coordinator working for community organizations in New York City. She has more than 30 years of experience training teachers in basically language development at the college level. And she has more than 30 years of experience as a college education program coordinator, all in the City University of New York. And so thank you for coming, Fatih, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's begin by asking a question, and that is, some people argue that the child's selection of a career is the child's own business and parents have no business interfering in that. Other people argue that parents should do everything they can to help. So where do you think parents should be in terms of helping the children prepare for a career?
Career development or career exploration is not something that you would be, I think you would should be left to the child. I mean, this is something that a parent should be involved continuously throughout the life. And I wouldn't call it career exploration. Basically, you just want, a child comes with curiosity and a sense of discovery and the feeling of exploring. So you just want to know, career exploration can mean different things throughout their life, the lifespan of a child, childhood. So first to fifth grade, you want them to be just discovering, exploring. So a parent's role is very important. Connecting with the school system and the network of resources within the community. The parent should really push and nurture all that discovery, exploration. So that's the first few years of childhood. Should be basically, a parent should be deliberate about pushing a child to explore and discover. So we know that to be career ready or college ready, there are three things that a child needs to have. First, strong academic skills. So reading, writing, science, and math. So that's very strong base in skills. This is really the first component. So a parent should be really engaged in making sure the child is reading and writing and engaged with meaningful content. For example, if they should, making sure that the child is reading and is interested in exploring different things that about life, our world. Then the second set of skills that one has to have in order to succeed or be a career ready is what they call 21st century skills, which is executive skills. Critical thinking, problem solving, working teamwork, communication skills, and also what they call being able to have executive skills means basically a child needs to know how to self-regulate, how to manage their time, how to set goals. So all these skills, the parent should be engaged in making sure a kid is, of course, a child is naturally very is a discoverer, is creative, but you want to make sure that you create, as a parent, opportunities for the child to develop those skills. And then the last set of skills is, of course, is career exploration and being ready for college. But this is for the older child, the child who is like 8th grade and beyond. Then you're really being very deliberate about pushing them into exploring careers in a more deliberate way. So you're really talking about 3 sets of skills that the parent should be engaging with the child.
That's a good point. So it seems like you're saying that it's not enough just to know the area you want to go into. Let's say you want to be an English teacher. It's not enough just to know how to be an English teacher. You have to know all these other things like the social skills and problem solving and things like that. So if I understand what you're saying, then the preparation of the child for a career is much more sort of comprehensive and global than just learning one skill.
That's right. And then the child, you don't want to also kind of channel them into one path. The child is going to be looking at different, you may not think that he is naturally interested in sciences or something, but by getting involved in exploratory games and maybe going to museums and everything and teaching a child to love science, then that could be a path that they can engage in, and they will discover something that would connect them to a path later. But this is it. It's like really the world, exploring really teaching a kid to look at the world as in a bigger way.
I know a parent who pretty much since the child was born, her daughter was born, she told her daughter she was going to be a doctor. And from that point on, as long as the child was growing up, she was always telling her daughter she was going to be a doctor. And she forced her to go into college and to major in biology, and then eventually go and get into medical school. And the girl did get into medical school. So what do you think about that approach to preparing one's child?
I believe that the child is very smart. It has a lot of skills, and they have a lot of competence. So you want to really work with the child and not really impose anything. I think there will be times where you see a child completely connected to a path. Maybe they want to be a doctor, they're playing with that. So you may want to nurture that, but it doesn't mean that you want to push them into that. So I think you want the child to develop, like I said, a sense of self. That sense of finding yourself is very, very strong, because what makes a path strong and what makes someone connect to a career in a very positive way is when you find passion or when you find a connection with that path. So it's very important to nurture that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because in this kind of situation where a parent is constantly pushing the child in one direction, I think you make a valid point that the child may not be really suited for that particular path. And the only way they may know is to develop that sense of self or that sense of identity. One of the major theories in psychology that has to do with this is one by Erickson that argues that one of the most important tasks in life is to figure out who you are. And so that's what you're saying.
And then there is also what they call the growth mindset. Dweck talks about resilience and the growth mindset. And that's part of, instead of pushing someone into a fixed mindset of looking into one path, you want to, because someone may be told you're going to be a doctor all your life, and then once they graduate, they hate it. They may not like it.
Exactly.
Someone who is depressed, and you've had situations of people who do well for the world, but they are really unhappy. And that's a very bad situation to be in.
That's a good point. But now there's another sort of opposite point to this, where I remember being interviewed by a writer for a magazine article, and she was talking about how children sometimes are gifted, and they're very gifted in some particular area, and they seem to enjoy it. And so parents may nurture that in the child. But then while the child's developing these gifts and maybe is making contributions to society at a young age, the child suddenly turns their interest to something else. Right? And so the writer wanted to know, what do you do with parents like that? Do you just try to force a child to stay in that one area that they were doing so well in? Or do you just let them do whatever they want?
That success in any career for a child, they have to understand it's 2 things. It's being excited about it, the sense of discovery, enjoying it, but also the hard work.
Yes.
it's, you know, the number of the time you put into the thing, learning to be competent in it. And it's boring, but this is part of, it's a skill that the parent has to teach the child, that it's about the number of times, the rehearsal. It's like, we all know, for example, we see all these successful people, but very few people know how much hard work people have to put into anything to be successful. So that's a story that's not really well told. And the parents really think it's just, oh, it's just it's a kid who does well. It's not true. It's all the hard work and all the the hours that people put into rehearsing and you know, doing it again and again to be good at it. And that's
a good point.
the best lesson that the child needs to learn.
Yes, that's a good point. So just what you're saying about self-regulation and learning how to, you know, control your behavior and pursue something, those are all skills that no matter what career your child goes into will be important for the rest of their life.
And the practice, yeah.
Yes, good point. Though I would take exception with what you're saying just a little bit, and that is that when you find a career path that you truly love, then it doesn't seem like work. Right? So if you can get the child to that point where you know, as you said, you help them discover what their talents are and their abilities are, help them discover who they are, then if they can find that path in life, then it doesn't seem so much like work. Because right? You know, it's sort of like if you can do what you love to do, then it's almost like you're getting paid to do what you love anyway. So it's
right.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the idea is to have a child, I mean, the parent should really catch a child enjoying something and pushing them to becoming good at it, exploring it. Oh, you want to do that? You know, there are jobs that for example, if you like gardening or something, there is a whole world, a whole career world dealing with botany and working with gardening and plants and all that. So it has to do with the whole world, working with, you know, in parks and or forestry, and it's a whole world that you can engage them in. Every path has so the idea is to get the child to explore and then talk about it.
That's an excellent point.
Paths, yeah.
So as a parent, it's okay to enjoy your child and play with them, but it sounds like it's also wise to be cognizant of what your child enjoys and to expose your child to new opportunities within their areas of pleasure.
Yeah, especially I would especially after, you know, as a kid gets into 6th grade, that time, that's when you start thinking about careers. And at the beginning, you just want them to just enjoy, explore, think. You want curiosity, you want problem solving, you want them to be immersed in discovery, you know, reading, writing, you know, all kinds of things, exploring. But then later, as I said, 6th grade, that's when you start looking into, you know, guiding them into exploring in a very unintentional way, you know, at paths, you know, careers.
Good point. And along with that, one of the things a parent can do is not just wait for the child to explore different things, but also to expose the child to different things.
That's right. For example, a child may want to just sit and watch TV and just have fun on a whole weekend, but you want to push them into, you know, environments that they may not really all be very comfortable. You could take a trip somewhere. You can go to a science exploration, you know, park. For example, they can be taking a trip somewhere and talking about, you know, really pushing kids to go beyond their, you know, routine life. They have to be pushed to discover things.
So I think part of it is maybe helping that child develop a sense of curiosity about the world around them.
That's right.
How do you do that?
Well, I mean, in urban environments like New York City, for example, we're really lucky to have so many networks, but you really have to be deliberate of how to tap into the resources we have. For example, the New York Public Library system is unbelievable as a system of full of resources. And we have branches in every community, and every community has, for example, a career exploration center. They have remote learning. There's a lot of resources within the public library system, and you have videos, you have speakers, you have group activities that a parent can connect the child with in the library system. For example, the museums. A lot of museums are free. One, at least a lot of New York City kids, for example, can go to many museums for free. And there is, or it could be one night free for parents, but I would say parents and kids, but I'm saying there are a lot of resources. The museum system is really wonderful. And then you have, you also have another system, I'm going to talk about PBS. PBS has something called the learning media. There is a whole, if you go and you Google PBS learning media, for example, and you go to parenting, parents have access to a lot of resources for their kids. And so if you use public PBS has, you know, you can really it's amazing. I mean, the amount of resources that are available for parents and kids to explore the world hands-on, through videos, through books, and through many resources that are free.
That's interesting. So I see this then, consistent with what you're saying, is sort of a multi-pathway where on the one hand, you want to nurture curiosity by exposing the child to the amazing things in the world around us. Right? But then you also want to develop those capacities for self-discipline and regulation so that when they find something they enjoy, they can pursue that and not just give up as soon as they have to do a little bit of work.
That's right.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, what is the earliest age at which parents should start to nurture these career options or explorations in their children?
At the beginning, you want them to just develop those basic skills and then become curious and explore the world. And as they go, you know, so I would say not before 5th grade.
Interesting. Yeah, I think what you're saying is consistent with something we said earlier, where when the child's very young, they don't really know all the possibilities anyway. And right. So if you try to push them prematurely into some particular area, unless the child's particularly gifted and particularly enjoys that, it's probably not the best idea. Right? And so if they really like it, then maybe fine, you let them nurture that. But otherwise, you know, if I understand what you're saying, you want to help them establish the foundation that they can use in terms of, you know, basic literacy skills, for example, and, you know, self-regulation that they can use to go into any career they choose. But the other thing is that when they're young, they may not know who they are yet. Right? So that's the other piece. And so I think, you know, it's important for the child to learn who they are and what they really enjoy in life.
So you want them to 8th, 9th grade, that's when you start looking at, in a more deliberate way, at what their strengths are, what measures exist. For example, they can start looking at jobs, you know, what is the job environment, what are the jobs of the future, and look at their measures that they'd be interested in, what colleges are offering that. And being ready for college means also being ready financially, looking at resources, financial aid, scholarships, the whole world of getting ready for college or getting ready for career. That's a whole package by itself. But it could start as early as 8th grade, you know?
Yes. You mentioned a lot of good points. Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned that a lot of people may not be that familiar with is the vocational interest inventories. Myers-Briggs is one of them. Right? And so could you describe what those tests do, the vocational interest inventories?
But it tells you, for example, what your strength, it kind of looks at different personalities and what assets you have that would match different personality traits, and then that could also connect you to different types of job, you know, career paths or vocational paths. Yes. If I'm very hands-on and I'm very musical, it could be something, an area. I mean, I'd be interested in maybe looking at musical therapy, as it could be. So everyone is different. And the beauty of career exploration, especially in our world, is becoming, it's a huge world. You could also create, you know, shape up your own career. And there are also careers that are not really deliberately seen as careers that you can stumble into. But the idea is to be ready for it and look at your strength. And when you know what you're good at with the Myers-Briggs, it just, it tells you what you're good at, what skills are needed for what vocation or what career. So then you can explore those careers.
Right.
Teenager, that I could do internships, I could do some volunteer work. And then that would also it would be a reality check whether am I really a good, do I really want to be a teacher? Do I really want to be a doctor? You could go and visit places like this as early as, 8th grade.
Right. So the vocational inventory test, what they do is they ask questions about what people like and don't like, and then based on what the person says, they then can tell you what careers are full of people that have similar likes and dislikes.
That's right.
And so based on what you're saying, then the child, perhaps in conversation with the parent, can go in there and try something in there, like you said, an internship or something like that, which they could do even in high school.
That's right. Or if you don't have time to go there, you can watch videos. For example, I mentioned the New York Public Library has a whole system. It's called Career Pathways. And then you can listen to all these videos. You can watch videos of people doing their job and talking about their jobs and then different types of careers. And that can also give you some background knowledge about careers that you may be exploring. So it could be a video that you watch and then think about it.
That's a good point. There's also another resource called the Occupational Outlook Handbook that's put out by the Department of Labor, I believe. And they have most of the different major job categories in the country.
That's
and they
right.
talk about the requirements and the pay and things like that. So that's another resource.
That's right.
Now, there are a number of factors that sort of go into choosing a career, but there's also some interesting research on this suggesting that there's bias, or a number of biases in the society that are influencing the choices people make. So for example, one kind of bias that is very prominent is a gender bias, right? Where boys and girls are encouraged to go in different career directions, as though there's certain jobs that are more appropriate for males and other jobs that are more appropriate for females. And so how should parents deal with those kinds of biases?
I think you really have to debunk these preconceived ideas. I think
Those stereotypes.
the child in talking about it, and then pushing them also to explore those positions that they may not think they should pursue because they're boy or girl,
So if the child has an interest in some area that's not normally, where let's say a female child is interested in a certain area, then if I understand what you're saying, you wouldn't necessarily discourage them if it was an area that was dominated by males, that you would just help her explore and see if that's really something she loves.
Yeah.
That's a good.
I think the parent also should think about them. It's an internal dialogue that the parent should have with themselves as well. Is it something that makes, the family may need to talk about it and look at, biases they may have themselves, what is it that's stopping you from encouraging your child to do that or whatever. It has sense to the parent, but I would say that a lot has to do with communication and then looking at role models, reading about what others have done and learning about, what is it that you need to be. I mean, there are biases, and it's true. It's a reality of life. There may be positions there that someone may be uncomfortable. I mean, in the past, a lot of women, for example, I have a young woman I worked with, and she's from Bangladesh, and then she was the only engineer in her department, but she had to kind of deal with that, and eventually she had to. You have to develop skills to when you're the only one to, advocate for yourself and to function in that environment. So it's good to talk about all the issues that one has to have, but to push someone. So if they're going to pursue an area that they think are not seen good for their gender, you want them to engage in a realistic way about issues that they can deal with.
Good point.
Be dealing with.
You raised another issue that I think is important, and that is role models. There's some articles coming out in the literature, in the research, I should say, suggesting that when it comes to role models, children who are in low-income families are at a disadvantage. And so could you maybe address that? If let's say a child living in a low-income environment, the idea is that they may not have access to the same kind of role models as a child living in a middle or upper income environment.
Yeah.
So how could you address that as a parent, especially if you're a parent from a low-income family?
I think a lot of it, we know that kids who come from low-income environment or environments where people didn't believe in them, or school environments that were really not strong. They come sometimes with the feeling that they may not, it depends on the school and it depends on the environment. Some kids come ready, even though they may have not been prepared. It depends on the school system. I think a lot has to do with pushing, really believing in them and allowing them to, especially to look at, a lot has to do with the parent, what the parent is doing and what the school is doing. And if the school has low expectations for the child, the parent should engage the child with the school system. They should really have a network of support. For example, the school system always has you want to look at the guidance counselor who's working with the kid. You want to have a dialogue with the teacher. You want to push the student. So, and then if a kid has low self-esteem, doesn't believe that they can do it, you want to look at what's happening in the school system. A parent should really advocate for their kid.
Makes sense.
The kid to have high expectations. A child can do anything. It's all about expectations. And if they're not doing well, what is it that is stopping them from doing it? If the parent is very busy and they may not have time to do that, I would try to get an advocate in the school who is to advocate for my kid. Because a kid, it's true, unfortunately, a lot of kids who don't do well come from school systems that don't believe in them.
Good point.
It's a tough job, but the parents should really be engaged. They really should be part of the parent-teacher association. They need to find out what is surrounding the kid, who is working with the kid, who is my kid working? What kind of support? Who is talking to him? You really have to. It has to do with the expectations. A lot has to do with the expectations. The lower the expectations are, the less the kid is going to do.
That's a good point. I think when parents believe in their child, and especially when they nurture that growth mindset that you refer to, then the child comes to understand that they can do almost anything they set their mind to. And that's a powerful benefit to have as you go through life.
Yeah.
So I wish we had more time, but our time is running out. So let me thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. This has been very informative, at least for me. I hope that parents who are watching this have gotten something out of this. If they want to get more information about the work you do and about nurturing the children for their career, is there any place they can go that would be helpful?
As I mentioned, I really think the New York Public Library system, I would say, I will give them the website, ypl.org/education/parents. I would go into that website. That's a very good website. And PBS Learning Media.
Okay.
These are the two websites, very good resources. And then again, DOE, NYC.org. We have a lot of lots of services for parents.
Oh, good point. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. I'm very grateful. And those of you who are watching today, thank you for coming. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.